The reason I'm giving a range here is that their numbers are actually wrong. Patreon sends me my money through PayPal, and from PayPal I send it to my bank. But apparently both Patreon and PayPal report that as income to the government. And so a few years back, I got an audit where they said, you earned twice as much in 2019 as you claimed, which means you owe us twice as much in taxes. I disputed this by their deadline, and I thought it was taken care of, but apparently not.
Yes, absolutely so. It turns out that the communist e-beggar who demanded money from all of you in order to settle his debts due to his financial mismanagement was actively cheating the U.S. federal government out of taxes, and considering this is the same individual that will go after you and demand taxes be raised on you, this is absolute madness in every possible way. Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Sean, and we have an update in the Innuendo Studios fiasco that I've covered in 2 previous videos before. As we talked about, he posted a video, a very manipulative video, talking about how being a YouTuber had bankrupted him a little while ago. He raised $155,000. He was talking about how it was so expensive to run his YouTube channel, and now, after he supposedly settled his debts with the IRS, this man, this absolute coward in every possible way, is going on a vacation to Japan. And it turns out the reason he was in so much debt is because he had terrible financial management, and of course, he was cheating on his taxes. A communist that thinks you shouldn't own anything, that's always like tax the rich, was getting all these streams of income through his YouTube channel and not paying taxes on it, and then he was shocked and horrified that guess what? The bill came due. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay.
So as you guys know, I made 2 previous videos on this Innuendo Studios character, also known as Ian Danskin, and how he posted a video to his YouTube channel where, by the way, he hasn't uploaded anything in the last 4 months except for this e-begging video, where he claims that being a YouTuber bankrupted him. He's been running the channel at a loss for 7 years, among a whole host of other ridiculous and absurd things that nobody should buy into. But unfortunately, his communist audience, just like Keffel's did, was scammed by him to the tune of $150,000, to the tune of doubling his Patreon revenue, and now he's going on vacation to Japan and not promising to put out any new content. Now, this video that he put out was insanely manipulative. He was crying like, oh, thank you so much for Innuendo Studios, so sad.
Right now, I'm just not promising anything specific. Thank you all for 11 years of Innuendo Studios.
He also had the audacity to say that he doesn't even understand the concept of free time as a YouTuber.
What if I wasn't a YouTuber? Like, how would I spend my time? Where would I put my energies? What would I work on if you didn't always have that gnawing feeling of like, I should be working on my video? You know, what would my home look like? What would my social life look like? How would my free time look? Free time is a concept.
Even though he quite literally does not make content, all he does is sit on his lazy ass. He also said that the reason he wasn't making videos is because his back hurt. He hurt his back, and we all know YouTube videos are so labor intensive, he can't handle the pain in his back.
You know, once I hurt my back and I couldn't work for a while, and life just got more expensive, it's really seemed like, especially with joining Nebula and everything, it keeps feeling like if I could just hang on a little longer, I get it cracked. And I'd become one of those like fully self-sustained people, and maybe I would, you know, maybe if I could hold on a little longer, I would, but I can't.
To top it all off, in that particular video, he was like, oh my god, what am I to do with a resume that says you're a YouTube content creator for the last 10 years? Oh, so sad. Oh my god, what a horrible tale.
Even if the financial precarity, like my official position right now, is that it's not worth it anymore. For those 11 years, it really was. And I don't know I don't know what's out there, and I'm probably calling a temp agency on Monday. Good God. You know what it's like to have a resume that just says content creator for 11 years? What does that even qualify you for?
Now, I called this from the jump as the BS that it was. I said that this man was mismanaging his finances. He was not being honest with the people out there in his audience, because in reality, it's virtually impossible to run a YouTube channel where one person is behind it at a loss. You can spend more than you could take in. Anybody could do that at any income level. But the fact is, running a YouTube channel is extraordinarily cheap. Your upfront costs of your microphone, your camera, your whatever, those might come into play, but in reality, those are one-time costs. And what you actually end up doing when you're in this type of business is you look for additional expenses in order to charge, in order to save off of your taxes, because the stuff that you buy for your business ends up being deducted from your business income rather than your personal income, and that can significantly lower your tax bill. Now, of course, Ian knows that this is manipulative. He knows that this is a tactic that people throw out there in the world in order to generate sympathy and more money, because on an unlisted Patreon video from back in March that I received, by the way, courtesy of Chud Logic, who actually subscribed to his Patreon in order to investigate this further, he said exactly what he was going to do 2 months prior to him doing it.
I don't like telling you this. It is impossible to discuss financial struggles to the people who pay for my career without running the risk of exploitation. I don't want to be that guy who says, everybody chip in to save the channel multiple years in a row, and you all just take me at my word that the channel is indeed struggling. We all know how people lie about money and foster parasocial relationships just to enrich themselves. It's a pitfall of this industry, and they poison the well for everybody. But I am struggling. And the struggle is real.
We're going to get into a bunch of different things related to this unlisted video, which again is available on his Patreon, but there's also a written post where he announces that he is going to go to Japan. And honestly, it's one of the most asinine things I've ever seen in my entire life. It's 100% a scam. And in addition to all of this, this guy is under the impression that it is 100% clear based on his Googling that his GoFundMe money is not taxable. So he's not even saving that money for a future possible tax obligation, which just goes to show you how poor his mindset is. So look, I'm not going to get into this whole post where he says he's not going to make videos for the summer of 2025 because he's on sabbatical. I just want to focus on this specific part where he says after his summer sabbatical, he's going to go on vacation to Japan. Quote, in September, I'm going to visit a friend of mine. They live in Japan, and I've wanted to take an extended trip to see them for ages, but haven't had the money for it. They live very cheaply in Japan, totally nonsensical, and it's likely that I will break even on expenses, provided we cook most of our meals together. It's just a matter of having the upfront air costs, which thanks to you, I have, exclamation point. And while I'm seeing my friend, we're going to make a project. We haven't decided what the project is, just that we want to make something together, and whatever it is, it will end up here for all of you. I will be back in the States sometime in October, and by then, I will have decided whether or not I'm still a YouTuber. So somebody needs to call Caleb Hammer or Dave Ramsey to explain to this absolute child that he's a joke, and in no way, shape, or form is a month-long vacation in Japan something that you break even on. Again, you spend money on vacation. This man took your money. He pled poverty. He said, oh my God, my poor back. I'm such an innocent Baba angel. I can't do nothing. Robbed you guys, paid off his back taxes that were due to the fact that he was defrauding the IRS. And then he decided that he's going to go to Japan after he takes a 3-month vacation. And by the way, he was already on a 4-month vacation because he hadn't uploaded any videos onto his channel. So this guy is putting in no work as the super super mayor would say.
Y'all don't do no work, no work.
Every lefty that promoted his GoFundMe, every lefty that backed this man up, they should be ashamed of themselves because what they ended up doing was scamming their mutual audience members into donating to this person. And what's disgusting about this is that because he's a YouTuber, even though I'm nothing like this individual, he ends up getting the whole industry painted as a bunch of schemers and scammers based on the fact that he did his GoFundMe in this way, and then he did his audience dirty in that he used that money in order to pay for that vacation. And again, he was posting about this early on in Blue Sky about a project that he wanted to work on in September, but wouldn't you know it, absent from all of his public posts was the fact that this friend that he was going to work on something with that maybe could just be a home video of them singing karaoke actually lived in Japan and he needed to go on vacation there for over a month. And again, his original video where he's pleading poverty, where he's talking about how sad his life was and oh my god, I'm so pathetic, I can't even provide for my family, all of that is gone now because now he could just go off to Japan and have a great time. Absolutely ridiculous. But that being said, we got to talk about this March video where he started telling his patrons that he was absolutely broke, because that is also very indicative of this guy's lazy mindset.
Hey team, happy Nope. Happy March. Sorry this video is coming late. It has been a wonky year.
So right off the top, this particular Patreon post is late. It was supposed to come out in February, but as indicated right there, it came out in March. But don't worry, Ian of Innuendo Studios is going to tell you all the different various things that he's been doing. Thus, this is the reason why, to his patrons, to the people who pay for his lifestyle, his video is late.
I launched a new weekly series of shorts. I wrapped the alt-right playbook. Whole lot else has been going on.
So he says, oh, I've been so busy. I started a new series of shorts. Who cares about that? He wrapped his flagship series, which was the alt-right playbook. And I just want to point out that the amount of time that he put into those videos dropped significantly when he ultimately ended up releasing them. We're talking about a couple of minutes when these videos used to be 40 minutes long. So the quality greatly diminished by the time he actually decided to wrap the series. So already you could see the laziness creeping in. And then he says a whole lot else and flashes all this text on screen in the hopes that you won't read it. But guess what? I got nothing but time on my hands, Ian, to make videos, to make content, to do my actual job, unlike you, who has nothing but time on your hands in order to stick your thumb in your rear end or whatever the hell you're doing rather than making content. So I'm actually going to read through this so you people can understand what an absolute scammer he is. And by the way, we're not even going to get into the outright lies that he told about his tax situation, and I'm going to explain to you how my tax situation works so you can understand how ridiculous this person is. It says, this is a sampling of just last week's task. I got the new tier list up and revamped the title cards for all the tier list videos. Finally worked on my bingo card, picked up my meds, did some script revisions on the 2025 vid to reflect the finalized bingo card, did just a tiny bit of editing on the 2025 vid, made a tiny and silly video for fun, incorrectly filled out IRS forms, wrote the next several chunks of the Disco Elysium vid, tweaked the next tier vid with Willow, took out the trash and recycling, met with the personal trainer, printed and signed the incorrectly filled out IRS form, had my schedule call with the IRS, got groceries, did February's overdue Quantico post, cooked a bunch, did a S-load of chores, went to the laundromat, and reserved a car. Do you know how insane it is that he actually put up this text in his video for how busy he is, way too busy to be making content? It's absolutely absurd. The guy says that he had to pick up his medication from the pharmacy. Oh my god, you poor baby. He had to go to the grocery store. He had to cook food for himself because, oh my god, you guys out there in the audience who have to do all that stuff with a full-time job can't possibly understand all the stresses that Ian's under. And then he had to take out the garbage and the recycling. Jesus, Ian, with that level of work in your last week of life, I'm surprised that you even put out one video in the last year, let alone the 4 videos that you put out that total under an hour of content total on your channel for the previous 365 days. I mean, it would have taken me 5 years to take out my garbage and recycling. Oh my god. And I don't even want to get into the fact fact that New York City requires composting, that takes me months to roll out to the front of the sidewalk and then roll the can back after sanitation ends up picking it up. This is crazy. This is absolutely insane. And again, it's just meant to flood the zone with information because you're not supposed to look at anything individually, and you're supposed to say, golly gosh, gee, Ian Danskin is working so hard on his life. I mean, he met with a personal trainer while he was going into bankruptcy. That is unbelievably so sad. Now, of course, he goes on in this particular video to say that he already pled poverty in a previous Patreon exclusive. He already demanded more money from his patrons, and guess what? He actually met that goal.
All but the newest of new patrons know that last year I said the channel was financially unsustainable and I needed to hit a specific financial target to know whether being a full-time YouTuber was still feasible for me. And I did it! The year did not at all go as expected. I released far fewer videos than I had hoped and had a range of professional and personal crises, but in spite of everything, I managed to hit the target. Happy 2025. This is still unsustainable.
So right there, he just explains to his audience, again, this is before the fundraiser, that he actually met his financial goals as he laid out for them in order to be sustainable. And then in a snappy comedic way, he says, this is still unsustainable. So the guy's an absolute idiot. Why would you set a goal for sustainability if meeting that goal wouldn't make you sustainable? It's ridiculous. Again, the guy's absolutely lazy. And this is shown to us by the breakdown of his income, by the breakdown of his revenue stream. Now, as we talked about multiple times on this channel, his Patreon is at $7,000 now, which nets him a total of $82,000 a year or somewhere thereabouts. But back when he was posting this video, it was about half of that. So $3,500, which nets him around $40,000 a year, which again is very comparable to the average American salary. But let's look at these other brackets. I want to focus on the Nebula right there, which by the way is at 19.5%. Now, since Patreon represents 57.4% of his total income for the month, that means that his income on average is about $6,100 total. So Nebula, being about 19% of that, equals about $1,160 a month. And if you actually look at his Nebula channel, what you'll find out is the man is posting 1-minute videos on Nebula. This is a paid subscription meant to be a bunch of YouTubers coming together in order to compete with Netflix, and the man is posting 1-minute videos that look like they're just clips from other videos as the exclusive content for streaming on Nebula. Insane, fraudulent, ridiculous. Now, of course, we also have to calculate how much he's pulling in from AdSense revenue. Now, his AdSense revenue is 14% of his overall income, again at $6,100 a month. That means he's earning $854 from Google AdSense revenue, which again is just proof positive that the man isn't doing any work at all. If you don't put out videos on YouTube, you're not going to earn AdSense revenue. The guy is super lazy, so the ads that he's getting run on his videos are only on so few videos, and the way that you would increase your income in this particular situation is to put out more videos. But of course, he can't do that because of his bad back and whatnot, and this, of course, is the heart of his problem. But of course, we also can point out that $6,100 is nothing to sneeze at. That's $73,200 a year for basically not doing the work that is promised to your audience. And if you guys will remember, based on my previous videos, his Patreon actually doubled to $7,000 a month, which means his income is no longer $73,000 or the $82,000 that I was telling you was just from Patreon. It is now $115,000. $115,000 for him to go off on vacation in Japan with, for him to not pay his taxes with, and in addition to that, this guy also received about $70,000 over his goal for his GoFundMe. Now again, I will remind you, $80,000+ of those Patreon earnings, he is under the impression that he does not have to pay taxes on, so of course, he's going to have that $80K in a way that most of you would never have it, in that there's no money taken out ahead of time, because again, you don't do withholding when you are an individual or a freelancer or you're working as a sole proprietor, whatever your filing status. But this guy is still playing the poverty game. He's still saying my life is so sad, and he's still making terrible decisions like a vacation to Japan that he unbelievably says that he might break even on. But it's actually worse than that, because there's so many lies and manipulations in this Patreon exclusive video, they need to be called out, because he's just outright lying to his audience about how the tax situation works for individuals that work for themselves.
It is impossible to discuss financial struggles to the people who pay for my career without running the risk of exploitation. I don't want to be that guy who says, everybody chip in to save the channel multiple years in a row, and you all just take me at my word that the channel is indeed struggling. We all know how people lie about money and foster parasocial relationships just to enrich themselves. It's a pitfall of this industry, and they poison the well for everybody.
Yes, you're the guy who's lying about your finances, or maybe you're too stupid to realize that what you're saying makes no sense, because anybody with any kind of education, anybody who's on this side of the camera who has to do the finances themselves like I do, knows this is BS.
But I am struggling, and the struggle is real. And I'm going to need to ask for help. So here are some numbers. A basic fact for the self-employed in the US is that you have to pay about 30% of your income in taxes.
Liar! Liar!
At my level, this can be between $10,000 and $15,000 a year. Now, if I had an employer, it would be less. I would need to earn 3 times as much as I do before I would be paying 30%. So, welcome to freelancing.
So I don't know how else to say this to people out there in the audience other than the fact that that is 100% undeniably an absolute lie, an absolute fraud perpetuated on his audience, and ridiculously so. Let me make this clear to everybody out there in the audience. If you are a sole proprietor, you have many an avenue that aren't even that difficult for you to pay less of a percentage of your income in taxes, and one of the reasons why is because prior to your number that you receive, your revenue, becoming your income, you have multiple opportunities that regular ordinary taxpayers who are on W-2 do not have in order to deduct expenses. So like I said, you can deduct your microphone, you can deduct your lights, you can deduct a portion of your rent, especially if you have an office, or a portion of your home. You can do so many different deductions, travel, meals, all of that stuff, that by the time the number actually comes in as your income, it is significantly lower than what you actually took in the year. And again, these are all legal, standard, obvious deductions. It's not even to mention all the different tax advantages in terms of retirement accounts that you have, like a solo 401k, or if you wanted to do a traditional IRA. So what he's saying right here, ridiculous. If he had to owe $15,000 in taxes, that was on him if he made only $45,000, because a regular ordinary accountant with basic questions about how you spent your money throughout the course of the year would be able to lower your income dramatically on paper, so you would not have to take that hit. In addition to that, and this is absolutely crucial for everybody out there in the audience to understand, YouTube ad revenue, what most people get most of their money on, is not taxed as regular ordinary income. It is taxed as royalties, which run as the capital gains tax rate, which is in fact lower than the regular income tax rate. So again, you're not paying a ton of taxes on royalties up to a certain amount. I believe that there's a whole period where it's tax exempt, and then as you go up, it ends up kicking in all these other brackets. I also want to point out that Patreon revenue is not royalty revenue, but this guy does not pay taxes on his Patreon. That's what got him into this problem. But the idea that it's impossible to save 30% is absurd. And the double idea that you're paying so much more in taxes as a sole proprietor is absolutely ridiculous as well. Now, again, you might live in a city like I do, where your city and state income tax for royalties is identical to your income tax. So I pay a lot of money to New York City and New York State each and every year, make no mistake about it. But federally, my income is very much tax advantage. And by the way, if this guy were producing videos and at different periods of time on his channel, he was producing videos, making ad revenue, he was definitely able to pay a lower tax rate just based on the royalties, not to mention that you can deduct so many things. Anything that is potentially related to your business, you can deduct. So Ian Danskin, let me make it 100% clear, is lying to to you guys right now. You that are giving him money on his Patreon, I'm telling you as somebody on this side of the camera, there is no reason why he should be paying more than the average person when everyone and anyone, regular ass YouTube videos could tell you that you pay less than the average person. But it seems like maybe this guy is just so unbelievably stupid. He never goes to a tax account. He doesn't spend that $200 or whatever it costs to talk to an advisor because they end up doing all this work for you. All you have to do is bring a list of your expenses.
I have only been able to pay the entirety of my taxes one time in the past 7 years. And I got to have a lovely call with the IRS last month where they explained that between back taxes, fees, and interest, I owe them between $60,000 and $75,000.
And to make matters worse, this guy's a communist. He wants the tax code to be more oppressive. He wants more income to be taken out of everybody's paychecks. And the thing is, he says that he owes something like $75,000 after not doing his taxes properly for 7 years, and the IRS is going to throw him into collections. But that is not a lot of money over the course of 7 years. He said that he only has to pay $10,000 to $15,000 each and every year. So the guy has just not been paying his taxes and allowing taxes and fees to accrue. And in fact, this lines up perfectly because he says only 1 out of the 7 years did he file his taxes properly and on time.
So assuming I can get that year corrected, we're looking at like 60 something. If not, we're looking at least 75, maybe closer to 80. And I still haven't filed this year's.
Again, this is so ridiculous and absurd in every way, but this is how he's been presenting himself, not just apparently in the video that we all saw, but in his Patreon exclusives from March, and he also references previous videos where he talked about how his channel was unsustainable due to the fact of circumstances that are outside of his control, only for us to discover that they're fully within his control. All he had to do was pay his CPA to do his taxes. All he had to do was save the appropriate amount for his taxes. All he had to do was to log his purchases that can be related to the business so he can get deductions, and that's it. He wouldn't have been in this position, but he's an overspender, an absolute idiot, a person who thinks he's above the law and therefore should be tax exempt while advocating for oppressive taxation on you. And one of the things that I find the most obnoxious about this is that this guy was making the impression that he was so sad that he couldn't save anything for retirement in his first video that he published publicly.
Maybe I'll collaborate with people, but right now I'm not promising anything. I've been doing this for 11 years, and it's weird to say that it is the most financially stable I've ever been, because when I started this job, I was only a year or two off of food stamps, but it's just never made the kind of income that lets you trust that you're going to be able to cover your expenses 3-4 months from now. I have no savings. There's nothing for retirement. I owe more than I make in a year.
And I had said that he should open up a solo 401k, which allows an individual who is the sole employee of their company or sole proprietor to contribute money for retirement, both as the employee and as the employer. And you could actually put in, as the employee, up to $23,000. And on the employer side, depending on how much money you make, you can make the total up to $70,000. Now, it gets a little complicated on the employer side. It has to be no greater than 25% of the total income of the employee, but the maximum that you can contribute is $70,000, and that's all tax deferred, so it gives you a huge deduction on your taxes. Instead of doing that, after complaining about his retirement, one of the reasons why people started shoveling money to him, people started dropping coins in the bucket in front of him as he pathetically begged to them, this guy is going to Japan. This guy is still not realizing that his theories about taxation are absurd. They don't make any sense, and he's going to try to walk away with the Patreon ill-gotten gains tax-free.
Now, I want to acknowledge that some of this is my fault. The debt would not be nearly so big if I were better at budgeting, if I read my mail faster, if I had followed up about that audit. I am not purely a victim here. But also, this is a bad and broken system, and even if I played it perfectly, there is no universe where I make what I make and finish the year with 12 grand left over for the government. Not in this city, maybe not in this country. Like right now, after fees, My Patreon take home is about $3,500.
This is 100% a scam, people. This guy is a tax cheat. He's scamming you on Nebula. He's scamming you on Patreon. He scammed you in this GoFundMe. Now he's going to go on vacation to Japan. And guess what? His whole mindset hasn't changed at all whatsoever. So he's going to be broke and begging once again in just a couple of months, the way that he's burning through this money. You know, I like to talk about how there are two types of social media influencers. There's the business people, the people who actually run their operation like it's their job. You know, they pay their expenses. They don't spend too much on flashy things. And then there's the lottery winners. These people who rise up, start burning the money as quickly as possible, thinking it's never going to end. And then, of course, they flame out because it turns out, just like a lottery winner, that certain people are just not good with money, and flooding them with money doesn't solve the problem. Well, Ian Danskin is one of those people. He's an absolute idiot, and he just stole from his audience after stealing from the taxpayer by not paying his taxes for 7 years. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Special thank you to Chud Logic for linking me some of this stuff behind the Patreon paywall. If you like this video, then show them by leaving a like, subscribe for more content, follow me on my social media, support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute madness of this theft. Till next time.